My sister-in-law is trying to take advantage of my kindness. She had nowhere to go and I allowed her to stay, in my extra house rent-free. But she's not realizing that is my source of income when I rent that house out to people, and now she just wants to take it and expects to stay there forever because she's, quote, family? Well, I have something to tell her.
Hello, how are you guys? I don't post here too often, but I need some serious advice this time. It can get a little wild though, so make sure you stay seated throughout. I've been married to my husband Ben for more than 5 years now. We're incredibly in love, and when we were dating, we knew that we'd end up married. I was also very friendly with his family. I would not say we were incredibly close, but we'd stay casual with each other and interact as nicely as possible. However, that friendliness is now biting me in the butt. Let me get into a little background before I get to the main story. My sister-in-law, Joanne, has 3 kids with her husband, Ken. They had been living in a rented house for months and were very satisfied with their lives. However, a few months ago, their landlord told them that they'd have to move out because he wanted to get the house renovated. Obviously, they were shocked, and because Joanna's pretty close to Ben, she called him and let him know her situation. Initially, it was just them discussing what they could do now and how they could find another place to live in less than a month. Ben spent around a week trying to find a nice house for rent anywhere so they could at least start to move. However, it was starting to get a bit suspicious for me when she'd reject every single house that Ben would send her. I mean, if you're that desperate to move out, wouldn't you at least try to settle into a house before you get, kicked out? Anyways, my suspicions were right, and the reason she had not chosen any of the houses was because she asked Ben if they could just move in with us. Our house is not that big, and it most definitely could not host a family of 5. We've got a 3-bedroom apartment, and there are already 2 people living in it. It would be a bit too chaotic. Especially because, I don't know how long they would want to stay. It could be weeks, it could be months, nobody would know. When Ben asked me what I thought, I told, him that we would not be able to house them in our home. He's an incredible husband because he understood where I was coming from, but he's also an incredible brother because he was still worried about what would happen to his sister and her family. That's when he remembered that I currently own another house that I got from my mother's inheritance. I typically use that house as a rental home. My previous tenants just moved out and the house was going to be empty for a month or so, and I agreed with his idea because I was sure that a month would be enough time for them to either move into their previous house or look for another home. I didn't know that they'd be so shameless to cause trouble for me. Though, because if I had known they'd pull something like this, I would have never agreed to give the house to them. Anyways, I let Joanne know that my house is available for them to stay in, but I also let her know that this house is my business. It's how I get my money, so it's important that she keeps that in mind, and I think she shrugged it off though because her attitude is just not hitting me right these days. Actually, not just these days, she's been very nonchalant about the entire thing ever since she moved in. Every other day, I get a call from Joanne letting me know that there's something wrong with the house. That something isn't working or some other issue that she keeps picking at just because she knows I will get it done for her without any cost. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason she's even been acting like this in the first place. The first day that she moved into the house, I went to visit, her with Ben to help her settle in and give her a nice housewarming. However, her attitude towards my house was not something I was expecting. One look at the house and she let me know that it was not to her likings and asked if she could change the wallpaper since it's, quote, too much for her. Even though I felt bad about it, I let her know that it would not be okay for her to change anything in the house. Because she wouldn't be living in it long term. It's a rental house. She shrugged that off as well, but I could tell it annoyed her a bit. Even Ben noticed it, but he told me to just ignore it because she's going through a rough patch. So he told me we should be a bit more understanding towards her situation, and I didn't want to do that, especially because she was acting ungrateful when I was literally letting her stay in my house for, rent-free. Anyways, It's been a month since she's been living there, and honestly, it has not been that easy. Every week I received a complaint from her about something, and as a nice sister-in-law and landlord, I tried my best to get rid of whatever was causing her to complain. But I'm so sure that she doesn't appreciate me doing that at all, and it's getting very annoying. And I'm slowly realizing that I made a very big mistake letting her stay. Yesterday, I get a call from somebody inquiring about the house because they want to rent it. I couldn't let the opportunity go, and I already told Joanne that I'd get back into the business within a month, so I thought that she'd be prepared for it and would already be finding different houses to move into. Even if I had not gotten a call from someone, did she expect that I just let her live rent-free in my house for months on end? That's just disrespectful on her end, and if it were me, I'd never think about taking advantage of somebody like that. So, I placed a call to Joanne yesterday as soon as I hung up with my client to let her know that she needs to move out soon because I've got somebody who wants to rent this house out. I wasn't even being rude about it. I just asked her nicely when she'd be moving out. But she acted as if I've told her to murder somebody. She gets very defensive and told me that they have not been looking at any houses and wanted to stay here for a bit longer. I let her know that it was not possible because I'd be going into loss this way, especially because of all the repairs and changes that she'd called for and I paid for with my own money. It was a very long phone call with her, where she just would not budge and kept telling me that they would need a few more months before they could even think about moving to a different place. It kinda shocked me, because I had already let her know of my circumstances before I gave her the house, and she had reassured me that she'd be out of there in a month, and I tried convincing her, but nothing seemed to be working, so I gave up, hung up on her. That was also the wrong thing to do because that same night, Ben got a call from her saying that I was mean and rude and I did not have any manners because I just hung up on her without telling her what the end outcome of the call was. Ben understood where I was coming from, so he did not bother me too much about it, but I knew he was just trying to stay out of it until it got too messy. He's not the confrontational type of person in the first place, and it gets worse when it's someone he cares about on the other side. Ben also let me know that he tried talking to Joanne and explaining my situation, but she just would not understand and got emotional about how she can't get kicked out right now because she has nowhere to go. And all that stuff. In my opinion, she's just trying to get Ben on her side by emotionally manipulating him, but whatever. Ben's smart enough to understand whatever's happening on his own. Anyways, we both discussed last night how we should move forward and what I should do about this situation after I had the brilliant idea to make them pay rent. I mean, if they don't have a place to go, then that's fine. They can stay here as long as they want. They just have to pay me rent. That seems like a fair deal to me. So this morning, I call up Joanne and I let her know my decision. I don't know if you guys can guess or not, but she did not take the news well. Actually, she took it bad. As soon as the words rent left my mouth, she let out the biggest shriek I've ever heard from anyone in my entire life, and it sounded like I was stabbing her or something, honestly. I explained the logistics to her and let her know that if she does not pay me rent, then I'm going to go into a loss, and that I've already got other clients lined up who are willing to pay rent if she cannot. She gets angry at me and called me all kinds of things that you could think of, and she told me how I'm incredibly selfish and I only think about myself and don't consider what other people might want or need. I'd even told her that I'd take off half the rent that I usually take because she's family, and I did not want to be mean, but she expressed her anger in that as well and demanded that I ask for no rent at all, because as her sister-in-law, it's my duty to treat her like family and to take care of her and her family when they need it the most. Well, I could not let her get away with it, so I told her that if she's not willing to pay rent, then she was more than welcome to leave as soon as possible. But she just hung up the phone on me. What's ironic is that the last time I did that, she called my husband and bawled her little eyes out, saying I'm the rude one, and all sorts of names, and then she ends up doing the same thing to me. I honestly don't think Joanne would stoop this low, not to pay rent and to keep living in my house for free. All the excuses that she's giving me about how they can't afford to pay rent and how everything's really expensive these days, they're struggling, they're lies, because I know for a fact that both of them have really, really good jobs. And as a family, they're pretty well off. They go on vacation every year, they get their kids anything they want, and they go out on celebrations and stuff. But when it's their turn to pay rent, suddenly they're all broke. Besides, she was paying rent for her previous house as well. It's not like they moved out of there because they couldn't afford it, so I don't know what the issue is. I think it's because it's family, so she's just expecting to get stuff for free, but I'm not going to let her take advantage of me like that. She caused a really big drama about me asking for rent as well. Since Ben works from home, she knows that he's going to be home the entire day, which is why she came to my house in the afternoon and pretended to be hurt and distressed. And when I was in the room alone with her, she was mad and kept telling me that I'm selfish and all other stuff that you would say when you're angry, but as soon as Ben enters the room, her entire persona changes. She went from angry and aggressive to sad and emotional, and I was just staring at her, wondering how she managed to do that so quickly. I mean, you've got to have some real acting skills to be able to pull that off. She did it perfectly, though, because even I believed her for a second, and she went to Ben, held his arm, and started acting really sad about how I was mistreating her and having her pay rent when she's family, and she should not have done that. Ben did let her know that this was something that I was actually very serious about, and that she should understand where I was coming from. But that wasn't the right move, according to Joanne. She pulled out the big guns for that and started tearing up, telling Ben that I've managed to manipulate him into going against his own sister. According to Joanne, that showed just how selfish and stubborn I was, and how I could not just put anyone else before me. That was a lie, because there's many instances where I've helped them out in so many situations where I've been there if they needed me. But this is something that's not negotiable for me. I mean, I tried to explain it to her, but she's just as stubborn as she claims to be. She whined a bit more before she left the house in anger, slamming the door behind her as she went. I thought that was very disrespectful, and I'm just glad Ben agreed with me on that. We both sat down and discussed what else we could do about this situation when I realized that there was nothing we could do except take extreme measures, just like that. So I'm going to have to do whatever it takes to make her either pay rent or just completely move out of the house. Right that instant, I took my phone out and sent Joanne a very short message, telling her that she had 1 month to find another place and move out, or else she could start paying rent. I did let her know that if she decided to go with the rent option, her rent would be significantly lower than the normal tenants at least, but she was not satisfied with that as well. In response to that message, I get this short paragraph telling me how I'm a terrible person and that, well, she's not going to move out or pay rent no matter what I do. Well, at this point, I've had enough. This is taking too much of a mental strain on me, so if she does not decide to move out of the house in a month, I'm seriously going to kick her out. And I'd like to see her fight me then, especially when I take legal action against her. Update number 1. Okay, so I know this is a very late update. I posted the previous post about a month ago, and it's going crazy again. So, in the last post, I mentioned that my sister-in-law is not moving out of my rental house and is refusing to pay rent as well, and I gave them a lot of options. I reduced the rent, and I did everything I could to make the process easier for them. But they take me for granted. This is what happens when people think they're better than other people. I gave my sister-in-law, Joanne, a month to find another place to move into, or she'd have to start paying rent, because I've got people who actually want to rent this place. It's been a month since I gave her that ultimatum, and yesterday I found out that they're still not intending to move out of the home. The reason I found out about this was not because they let me know or gave me an update. No, they just completely vanished off the earth as soon as it was about to hit the 1-month mark. I sent them multiple messages last week, but they did not respond to any of them. Typically, I don't do double texting, but Joanne asked for it honestly. There were so many messages and she didn't reply to a single one of them. At one point, I even started calling her repeatedly so she would respond, but I had no luck with that also. So, at first, she ignored my calls and pretended like it didn't even happen. So I tried calling her from my husband Ben's phone, but she would not pick up that there either. So I knew that she was ignoring me on purpose because she's never missed one of Ben's calls. I think after that, she found out that I was on to her. So she got even more shameless and just starts declining the calls altogether. That went on for about a week before I decided that I've had enough of her bullcrap and needed to take things into my own hands. That's why yesterday, I woke up extra early to mentally prepare myself for this torture before showing up at the house as soon as it was reasonable enough time to go. As soon as I arrived and Joanne opened the door for me, I shoved my way inside that house before she even had the chance to slam the door into my face. As soon as I entered, I knew that there's no way that they were preparing to move out. The furniture, the things in the house, everything was placed as it was a month ago, when I told her to slowly start packing things up. This meant that they've taken my threat very lightly and did not intend to leave this place at all. I felt my anger rise up as I took in all the surroundings, and then I let it out on Joanne. I was so close to screaming at her, but I held it in and asked her as calmly as possible what the plan was. She told me she did not intend on moving out and then proceeded to tell me that it was very annoying of me to keep texting and calling her when I knew that they weren't planning on moving and had no place to go. That's not the only thing that spiked my anger, though. Well, guess what? When I looked around me and explored more of the house, I noticed so many things that were broken or damaged I could not even keep count of them. I told them that they'd need to fix it as soon as possible, but they shrugged it off and told me that the previous tenants had done that and they weren't responsible for it at all. Well, I instantly knew that they were lying because the previous tenants were amazing and had stayed with me for more than a year, so I knew that they've never done anything like this. Also, there were crayon marks on the doors and walls, but the previous tenants did not have any children, whereas Joanne had 3 of them. Things really weren't in her favor at this point, so I told her that she would have to pay for this stuff no matter what. I don't know if she took me for granted again or what, because I left after that, and after I told her to be out of the house this week, she really needs to start acting like a mature adult. Update number 2. You guys will never believe what happened this week. Okay, so remember how Joanne was complaining that she could not move out of the house because, well, she had nowhere else to go? I'm not sure if I told you guys, but she also mentioned that she and her husband are super busy these days, so they don't have time to look for another house. Well, me going over to her house and having the entire fight happened a few days back. Since then, I've left them a bunch of texts asking them to move out ASAP and start looking for a house now. They absolutely don't have any shame. Because how can you still stay in a house that someone's been trying to kick you out of for months? I would never be able to handle it if it happened to me. Anyways, she either ignored all my messages or let me know that she was really busy. So she didn't have the time to look for houses or move out of this one, and you might think that she, well, has a really intense job or something like that, but that's not why she's busy at all. I found out from Ben last night that their family is planning on going camping for the entire weekend. When she told me that she's going to be super busy with work in the upcoming weeks, that's when I realized that she's been trying to buy more time so she doesn't have to move out. But I'm not as easy as she thinks I am. If she's going camping, that means the house is going to be empty, and I'm ready to take full advantage of that. So as soon as she left for the weekend trip, I went over there, packed up the entire house. This meant stripping the bed sheets, packing the kitchen supplies, just anything that was easy to pack and fit in boxes. I made sure I packed it. By the end of the weekend, more than half of her house had been packed and moved into the garage. I also made sure to change the locks on each and every room in the house, including the main front door. The only place I left open was the garage, because that's where all the stuff was. At that point, Even though I knew that this was the right thing to do, I was still pretty nervous because I knew there's no way Joanne would take this lightly. She'd probably try to bring hell upon earth, and that's exactly what happened. So, are you guys ready for this? I live very close to the house. I went home and waited for the angry phone call that Joanne would make, and it was pretty late into the night when I finally got the call. I'd say 10 p.m. Her voice was shaking with barely concealed anger as she screamed at me, telling me that the house would not open and they were stuck outside at night, and then she started talking crap about the house, asking me why I'm trying so hard to get her family out when the problems just don't stop rising here. On the call, I did not let her know why she could not enter her own house because I wanted to do that in person. I just told her to stay put, and that I'd be coming over to fix that right now. Not even a foot onto the property, and she starts demanding that I open up this door this instant like she owned the place. I decided to show her who the actual owner was by telling her she could go stay on the streets because there's no way I was opening these damn doors. I led the entire family to the garage, and there was quite a bit of an uproar when they saw all their stuff packed in boxes, and that's when I let them know what exactly is happening. As soon as they realized what was going down, their faces morphed into an ugly expression that I just could not fathom. Both of the adults in the family start threatening to sue me and telling me I cannot do this to them, but I just told them that they were welcome to spend the night in the garage, and then I left. It's been a day since then, and I have not heard from them yet, so I am a bit scared. But hey, we'll see what happens. Updates number 3. Okay, so now it's been a few weeks and some days since I've kicked them out of the house. On the 3rd day, I received a call from Joanne. She kept threatening me and telling me that I had no right to do this and kick out a family who had nowhere else to go. Then, she proceeded to tell me that she was going to sue me for everything I've done, which was ironic because I did not do anything that she could sue me for. Joanne, on the other hand, had done a lot of things for which she could face legal consequences, and she did not need to know that yet, so I let her threaten me, and I pretended like I was scared, but she didn't know of my secret little weapon. Then I made sure to contact my lawyer the next day and let her know about everything that's happened over the past few months. I sued Joanne for damages to my house and for staying in the house without paying rent or coming to any agreements with me whatsoever. The legal document was mailed to Joanne just a few days later, and I don't know, I'm so glad I was there to see the look on her face when she read it. She did not think that I'd be smart enough to do this, but she didn't know who she was messing with. Since I was already there with her in person, she had another one of her angry bursts where she let me know exactly what she thinks of me, especially because she's living in the garage because I won't open the door for her. Right at this moment, she was not planning on moving out of the garage because she was sure that she was going to win the case, and she would not have to move out of the house at all. During the case day, that's when she realized she was, not going to win against me no matter how hard she tried. All the attempts she made against me turned to dust when I started my attempts and sued her for the damages that she's done. Her lawyer counter-argued that these damages might have been caused by the previous tenants, but I had the answer for that one as well. You see, whenever somebody rents my house, I take pictures of every single inch. So, that I know what was caused by which tenant. Now, even if Joanne was not renting the place out, I still followed the same protocol that I would have followed with any other tenant. These pictures are exactly what won me the case, because they were the very proof that she not only damaged my property, but was staying there without my consent. Even though it was legally under my name, it's been 2 days since then, and right now I'm celebrating my victory at my house, and I have no idea what Joanne and her family are up to. Update number 4. Hey guys, it's been about a week since the last update, and I did not know how Joanne was doing, and I didn't really have any interest in knowing. But she's my sister-in-law, and even though Ben is on my side in this whole thing, Joanne's still his sister. So he still knows what's exactly going on with her or not, because she refuses to let her brother go. She's still stuck in this delusional state that I'm trying to take Ben away from her and leave her with nothing, but she's refusing to accept that she's the one in the wrong this time. 2 days ago, I went to my house to get things sorted out and get it ready for the new tenants, only to find out that Joanne and her family were living in a trailer outside of the home. By the empty parking lot near my apartment, it's not like I can do anything about that, because the parking space is public property, but I'd really appreciate it if she found some other place to park her stupid little trailer. Especially because she's telling everybody in the family about how terrible of a person that I am, and how I was ruining the entire family because I was putting everybody against each other. Because of that, Ben had to call people around the family and explain the entire situation to them, and tell them what a jerk Joanne was being because they were all set on getting answers from him. I wouldn't put it beyond Joanne to go low to get what she wants, but you guys would have never believed what she did. She came over yesterday and told me that she's willing to take up my offer to have to pay only half of the rent. I don't think I would have even given her that offer anymore. I told her that I would not have her as a tenant at all, even if she was willing to pay full price. Obviously, she was hurt and told me I'm unfair because she was coming to me as a tenant and not as a family member. But if she's looking for a place to rent, she can just go find another place. Because not only do I not trust this woman, but I don't think I'd be willing to have her in my house after what she tried pulling last time. For all I know, she's just going to find another way. Another way to try to get out of paying rent and living for free. Besides, I've already gotten a new client who wants to rent the house, so I don't really need Joanne and her family anywhere near my property ever again. With the tone of my voice and the venomous feelings I was putting out against her, I'm sure she understood where I was coming from because she nodded once and left. Since then, she has not left me a single message or a call, and I'm really glad that this part of my life is over and I can go back to it being peaceful.
Finally, we get a story where an OP of the story doesn't just sit there and let things play out. She took action. She waited for them to leave the house for a short period of time, went there and packed up all of their crap. And I just can't even believe somebody would just try to stay in someone's extra house like that when they've already been told to leave multiple times because that's the source of income for OP. However, I do want to hear from you guys. If you were in OP's position, would you have done the exact same? Go to the house, pack up all the stuff, put it in the garage, change the locks, and say sayonara? Let me know in the comment section down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate these sort of stories every single day. We're talking inheritance dramas, mother-in-law disputes, in-law disputes, cheating stories. We cover it all. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!